Hi beautiful, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I am going to do somewhat a review on the Revolution HD Pro 35 eyeshadow palette, and this thing retails for almost $40, and I purchased mine from Farmers department store, but I believe eBay, no, not eBay, Beauty Bay. Beauty Bay sells Makeup Revolution now and they ship worldwide. So if you can't get your hands on the Revolution products wherever you are, you could definitely check out Beauty Bay, or you could order straight from the Revolution website. There's two places that I normally get my Revolution products from. Usually I would purchase from beautybliss.com, but recently Farmers opened up a stand for Revolution products, and that's where I got this from. So I personally love Makeup Revolution eyeshadow palettes. I actually have a few. I have two from the collaboration of Sophie Does Nails with Revolution, and then I have the iconic palettes in Velvet Rose and the green one, which I both love. So for today's video, I'm actually going to create a makeup look using this eyeshadow palette. I kind of touched on this on my full face of Revolution products, but in today's video, I kind of want to review it further and swatch a bunch of shades. So we have 8 shimmers. I think there's about 2 satins and the rest are matte shades. So for today's look, I'm not actually sure what I'm going to use, but I really want to incorporate this peachy shade right here and this maybe a little bit of pink, maybe a touch of this gold for our look, to swatch like the darker shades first. So we have this one right here, this one, this, that pink, and maybe this cranberry shade. So these matte eyeshadows are actually very pigmented. I find that Revolution makes their eyeshadow palette quite pigmented, especially the mattes. The shimmers are a little bit questionable sometimes depending on the palette that you're using, because some of them works great, some of them are very gritty, but in all honesty, once you apply them on your lids, they actually totally transform into a different formula, which I find odd, but I actually quite enjoy. So these are the matte shades. As you can see, they're quite pigmented, though as we all know, I'm terrible at swatches, but I actually quite like this peachy shade right there, maybe a little bit of that cranberry shade. So I think I'm going to swatch the more of like a cool tone shade. So this one right here, maybe a little bit of this one, and this here. So these are very pigmented. It does feel a little bit chalky when you swipe your hands, but then with the amount of pigment that you get, I mean, come on. That black though is pretty decent for a drugstore, because usually drugstore products would have a black that is somewhat patchy and more of like a charcoal looking black, whereas this one is not very opaque, but it's still reasonable for black. So now what I'm going to do is to swatch the shimmers, which I'm so excited about. So we have this gold shade right here, this one, this here, the cranberry, and maybe this. So funnily enough, the shimmers in this palette does not feel gritty at all. It doesn't feel smooth. It doesn't feel somewhat overly super glitter, but these are the shimmers. As you can see, the intensity, oh my god, I can't talk. The intensity of the shimmer shades aren't that opaque, but I feel like if you put on a concealer underneath or like wet your brush, you will get the full effect on the lids. But on my first impression, I actually put this shade right here on my lids with a mixture of a darker shade without having to put any base or concealer, and it worked totally fine. So I guess it's just like a matter of application. I'm not sure. Fingers are supposed to be good for shimmers, but for this case, no. But For today's video, I am going to try out maybe more of the warmer shades because on the previous one I kind of did like a more bronzy cool tone look. So this eyeshadow palette actually comes with names, but the names right here is actually from the actual box packaging that it came with. So what I did was I cut out the part where it has the shade names and I just sellotaped it on the actual palette because whenever I do makeup tutorial I wanted to be able to know the shade names, and also I could tell you guys what shades I use, which is pretty cool. I mean, it doesn't really translate because if you flip it like that it's not like on the right thing, but I mean the beauty of this is that it has the shades as well, so I won't get confused. So to start our makeup tutorial, I am going to take this shade right here called Driver, and I'm going to just set my lids using that shade. And this eyeshadow palette is so pigmented. The pigment reminds me of the Revolution X collab, her first eyeshadow palette. This eyeshadow palette is a little bit powdery as you can see, but you know, I don't mind a little bit of kickback as long as it's pigmented. So for transition shade, I might go and use the shade right here, and that's called Spoilt. And by the way, this eyeshadow palette is called Socialite. They have a few different ones, but I picked up this one because this is the one that is pretty hot at the moment in terms with the shades. And also it has a mixture of cool tone and warm tone, which I like. And if you're a makeup artist and you're wanting to build your kit, I feel like this eyeshadow palette is a great one to have because you have a lot of colors. You could actually create a bridal look or any type of look using the palette. I think I want to use the shade Vivacious, this peachy shade right there, and put that on my transition as well. That has a little bit of a satin finish. Ooh, that is so pigmented. And I think I'm going to create like a spring appropriate makeup because it's currently spring in New Zealand. I am going to deepen that a little bit, so I think I am going to go and use the shade right here, and that one is called Fillet. It's satin as well. And I'm going to go back to the transition shade that we used before. I will use the same brush. I'll just quickly clean it in a bun maker. And for the inner part of the lid, I want to use the shade next to it, which is a vibrant pink. And that one is called Plastic. I'm going to concentrate that on the inner part. And again, we're going to go back to the shade Fillet and intensify the outer V. For the lower lash line, I am going to go and use Plastic, which is that bright pink. Outer V, I'm going to go and use Fillet to darken that up. And for the lid, I want to use this gold shade right here, and that's called Old Money. And that's what it looks like. So I'm going to pop that in the middle of the lid. Ooh, that's so pretty. And to define that, I'm going to use a clean brush. It's a teeny tiny brush. And I am gonna go back and use Plastic to blend that. And Fillet. For the inner corner highlight, I am going to go and use the shade right here called Elite with a teeny tiny brush for precision. That looks more of a rose gold and it doesn't really go with the gold, so I'm going to take the shade Prima Donna, which is this one right here, and pop that on top. And we'll pop Prima Donna a little bit on the lid as well. So I'll just quickly curl my lashes and apply mascara and some lipstick, and I'll come back with you to share with you my final thoughts about the eyeshadow palette. So I just quickly did the lashes, and I'm actually quite pleased with how it looks with the lashes. I feel like this would be a great daytime look. And for the lips, I just applied a MAC lip liner in Soul, and then I used the YSL Rouge Velour Shine in number 9. Yes, number 9. And here is my final look. Overall, my thoughts on this palette, it is actually pretty decent. Like, I mean, look at the pigmentation that it gave. And also, I have some shades that is great for everyday wear, but I do want to show you up close that the shades, especially the matte shades, are a little bit powdery. So if you're not into like a very powdery eyeshadow palette, I feel like you would hate this. But personally, for me, I could get past that. I don't mind a lot of fallout as long as it applies smoothly and evenly on the lids. I'm all for it. I really have nothing bad to say about this specific eyeshadow palette. I know for a fact that all the shades will work great. I'm actually quite shocked about the shimmer because, as you saw the swatch, it didn't really perform that great, but then when I applied it on my lids, it's very vibrant and it's very opaque. I could definitely imagine it looking more intense if I use like a wet brush, but personally I'm quite happy with how that looked. As far as fallout on the face, I didn't have any actually, especially for the fact that the eyeshadows are very powdery. I would recommend this eyeshadow palette. Again, if you want a cheaper alternative for your kit, this is a great one to have. I suggest you visit the Revolution website because they sell it a lot cheaper. The only downside is that shipping might cost a lot depending on which country you live. As far as in New Zealand, you could definitely get a cheaper deal on beautybay.com, and they do ship in New Zealand. This one is $40, which is very steep, but if you purchase this from Beauty Bay, it's only what, like $27, and they have more variety. So I actually want to get the colorful version of this exact palette to see how the pastel colors will translate on the lid. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more updates, and I'll talk to you on the next video. Bye.